All right, welcome back for another episode. So we are starting on a new project this time. It's one I've been talking about. This is my buddy Joe. We've been friends for many years, and this car he has owned since it was new, 1970 El Camino. So Joe, why don't you kind of walk us through the history of this thing, and then we'll take a little look at it.
Well, I went in the Army in November of 1970. And when I came home on Christmas Eve in December, my dad had it. And we've had it ever since. And all it was just to bebop around town. He hauled his lawnmowers around in it and all that stuff. And there's a story behind that, but I don't want to tell the world about it.
Okay.
You know, but anyway, it's been in the family a long time. So my dad never got to see it done, so it's just one of those things that's just gonna be for him, you know.
Cool. Well, we're gonna breathe some life back into it and get it back together. Let's take a quick look at this thing.
No, you're not bringing home another piece of junk.
All right, so as you can see, it's in a few pieces. We got a little bit of metal work to do. We got some reassembly work to do. We got some paint work to do. So Joe, you started restoring this thing when? Or you took it to one shop, right? And then how many years ago was that?
All total, it was at one place for 3 years and another place for 4 years, and that's just, it never got any farther than most of the damage on here I've done.
Oh.
So it never did get too far.
Well, despite that, it's in really good shape, and there's been a lot done to this car. We take a little walk around. I mean, there's no real serious rust on this thing anywhere. He's done front suspension work, changed over to tubular control arms. Now this was originally a 307, Joe?
302.
302, okay.
AZ motor.
Yep. As you can see, all this has been sandblasted in here, but we've got new wheel wells. We got new quarter panels. I know you got all new exhaust for it. I know the motor's all rebuilt. We'll get around to putting that in once we get body put back together on it. What else have you done to this thing?
Well, we got some upper and lower. I got all the control arms, new control arms and stuff for the back that hasn't been on here yet.
Okay.
And gonna have to get a rear sway bar and the linkage on it, the steering linkage, and that's pretty much about it.
Okay. Original bench seat car, you're going back bench seat?
Bench seat, I already got that, yeah.
Okay.
I made the mistake and got rid of the old one, and that was a big mistake when you start pricing those puppies.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I wish I wouldn't have done it, but then I found one out of a GTO up in the city, so I got it.
All right. So we just pulled this over here today. I'm gonna start on this probably in a couple of days, probably on Monday, and I think we'll go with probably first starting to get quarter panels lined up and wheel wells and figure out where all that goes, and probably work on the metal work on this part first, and then we'll get her up and start working on some of the stuff underneath and more of the reassembly stuff. My buddy Kyle that has painted a few cars on the channel. It's probably going to be going to him for paint once we get to that point. So anyway, that's the story on it, and hope you all enjoy coming along and watching the reconstruction and getting this thing back on the road. Pretty cool for one car to be in one family with with one guy for this many years. So it's pretty neat to be able to work on it and put it back together.
I was able to find some license plates with November of 1970 on it. So
Oh, cool. Well, I think in Missouri you can put them back on here.
I know I got it all registered and everything with the state. It's all legal. It's ready to go. You got to fill out a form, and if that number's not being used, they give it to you. So it's already titled to the car.
Good deal.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess that's going to be it for this little part, and then we're going to go over and I'm going to go over and pick up some more parts, and we'll be getting on this thing pretty soon here. So very cool car. Everybody make sure you stay along for this build series. All right, morning everybody. So another little project we did this week while I was off. Put a new floor in the playhouse. The old floor was rotting out, so me and the grandkids did that. So that was the important one to get done. They gotta have their playhouse in good working order. I built that thing. It's been a few years, 5 years ago, something like that. I love that thing. All right, let's take a look at what we're doing today. All right, so this is day one of Project El Camino. Pretty cool to be on a new project after the, I don't know, 40 something episodes or whatever of the wagon. So where are we going to start? I think where we're going to start is on this quarter panel. I think I'm going to start in the back, work my way forward. Let's get both quarters done. We've got, and I didn't take this apart, so we got a little bit of experiment to do, but he's got a lot of new parts here. He got inner wheel wells, both sides. We got new quarters. We got this patch panel. We got a lot of new parts we probably don't need. He's got a whole floor pan for down there, which I think we just need to patch a couple. There's a few little pinholes down there, but definitely not needing to cut that whole floor panel out. Got this panel, I think this goes. Yeah, this goes there. But again, I don't need this whole panel. I'm not gonna cut that whole thing just to patch that little bit along the bottom. So we'll just take off what we need on this. But I'll tell you what, first thing I think we're gonna do, I borrowed these quick jack from my buddy Bruce. Rather than bending over on this thing, let me see if I can figure out how to set this thing up. Now let's get this thing up in the air where it can actually work on the thing. So who knows, I may end up buying one of those for myself after using his. But all right, let me get that set up. We'll get this dude up in the air. We'll get the parts cleaned out of it. And I think we will start on fixing that panel first. We're gonna have to paint the inside of this before we do the final weld on there, but we'll take care of that. We'll see what we got to take care of in here, which really doesn't look like much, just some cleanup. And I think this bracket's, yeah, we need to redo that bracket. It needs some spot welds on it. All right, quit talking, start working. Okay, so this thing is pretty cool. I mean, it does give you a nice working height. And then it's got some self-locking bars that kind of lock it in place when you get it down in there. The only drawback to this, it is really heavy. So at 58 years old, yeah, it's not terrible. I mean, I'm definitely not into working out or all that, but I try to stay in reasonably healthy shape. But I can see me at 65 years old wanting to move that thing around, or 70 years old. If I was going to do a lift, I would probably get a 4-post in here. I don't know if I'm gonna get one or, you know, I've tossed that around so many times. Do I want to lift? Do I not want to lift? One of the reasons I don't want to lift is I just don't have the headroom in here. I mean, I could see. I got 10 foot to that beam. I wish I had a 12 footer. But and then the floor space. Do I want to take up the floor space with a lift? So I don't know. But we're not talking about lifts right now. We're talking about El Caminos. So let's go ahead and empty the bed out, get the parts out of there, see what we got. And I think, like I said, we're gonna start here. We got most of this is good. We got some damage along the bottom, so I think we're gonna end up cutting like right in here somewhere and tacking that panel on there. And then over here you can see where they tore that up a little bit, cutting this thing out. We'll go ahead and do some fixing on that. But the rest of this, man, this is good. This whole car is really good. So, all right, let me get going on this and we'll take a look. Okay, so let's take a little closer look in here. We can see this lip is pretty foobarred, and we got some, I don't know if that was rust or just where they were using an air hammer to get that apart. But no sense trying to straighten all that out since we got a new panel. So I'll tell you what, we're gonna cut. Let's go here. And let's just go here. And we'll just take this piece we cut out and we'll just lay it over. Let's go there. We'll just lay it over the new panel and then we'll cut that out. Until we're about being straight. There. This is all okay, but it's still got the lip of the quarter panel spot welded under there, so you know, why deal with it when we don't have to? We'll have to deal with a little bit of that under there. But man, look at this thing. I mean, spotless. Look at this whole car. Floors, just about perfect. Rockers. Down inside the doors. I mean, you could not start with a better candidate. Very cool. Okay. Let me cut this piece out. We'll measure it up to this piece, and then we'll get this piece tacked on there and see what we got. Okay, so we got that piece cut off and did a little cleanup around there. Took my little die grinder, angle grinder, and just went along and cleaned all this up. We still had a little bit of metal stuck to some of these spot welds, so we got rid of those. And I took this piece, laid it on this patch panel, gave myself a 1/4 of an inch for overlap. We're gonna lap weld this piece on there, and we cut that out. And then went around and just cleaned off all the flanges, because that's what we're gonna weld to. And then we are gonna put, I'll probably put some weld through primer, you know, in between the two pieces of metal we sandwiched together, just kind of make sure this thing doesn't rust. And if you take a look here, whoops, take a look here, I mean, this fits really nice. This is I don't know who made these patch panels, but I just kind of test fitted a few of them, and they all seem like they're made pretty accurate. You know, you can get some sketchy patch panels for sure. So let's go ahead and get this piece spot welded on there, get it clamped in place, and then we'll take a look at what's next. All right, so I just got that on there with a couple of tacks. I want to do a quick test fit on the quarter panel and make sure I've got that bottom lip in the right place and not hanging down too low. actually up a tiny bit. The original quarter had a lip that went up and spot welded to this. The replacement doesn't have that, so we're probably, depending on how the body line looks, we may be dropping that down a little bit. Let's see. On the door thing. Oh, get back up there. Get out of there. All right. Now, I feel under there, I can feel, yeah, those are together right where they should be, so that's good. Okay. Set this right up there. And we can, I'm gonna go ahead and do a little tweaky and finish weld that in, and then we'll take another look. Okay, so we got her all in there. We got her welded. I went ahead and took the flapper wheel and knocked it down. For something like this, it's inside of another panel. I'm not going to worry about grinding it super smooth so you can't see any of the weld. I mean, all this is, you're never going to see any of this again once it's buttoned up. But she's good and solid. She fits good. While I was here, I went ahead and Joe gave me a couple cans of rust reformer. We just went ahead and hit this section of the frame. So it just had some surface rust on it, but I thought let's go ahead and hit it while it's exposed. And so what we're doing next is I started working on cleaning this lip up, because this is where the inner wheel well is going to weld, and we gotta do a little fix up here. We got a couple of broken spot welds on that bracket. We'll fix that when we get to it. But all this cleaned up real good. This lip got kind of tore up down here. And that is on that bed floor panel. Like I said, he's got a new bed floor panel, but I hate to just cut little sections of it because most of this is really good. So I think we're just gonna make a new lip for that. Maybe, there's a new lip for it right there. We'll just make it out of, where's that curved? That's straight enough, we can do that. Well, we'll see. Might have cut that out of a piece of sheet over there, but we'll make it work. This is a leftover piece from down there, so we'll use this for some other patching. So I think that's what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna go ahead and wire brush that some more, make sure we get all the rust off of that. And let's go ahead and repair that lip down there. I'll go ahead and pull this wheel off and get it out of the way. While I'm doing that, we'll tack this guy back up in here. And then we're gonna look at the inner wheel wells and see how they fit. Okay, so this thing's got a nice rear disc brake kit on it too, which is pretty cool. So I went through here and cleaned all this lip up. Rebuilt this lip in here. We just took a piece off that other piece I was showing you. Ooh, got a sharp piece in the back there. Let's pull that off before I rip my flesh open. Actually, let's pull it off without any gloves so I make sure that I rip my flesh open. Okay, so that is in there. That's all trimmed up. That's nice. We did a little more cleanup around in here. This thing's been sandblasted, so I blew some of the sand out of it. So we are going to start working on where this inner wheel well goes and how that fits. And I think while I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and take some of that rust reformer that I put there and just shoot it down in here, up around in here, kind of all that, you know. It's open now, so let's get it up in there and let it be drying. But let me get the inner, so the inner wheel tubs come in two pieces. You got this inner piece of the tub. It goes like this. And Let's say right hand, yeah. So you got that piece, and then you got the outer piece of the wheel tub. That's right or left? That's left. That's right. Oh, here's who makes these things. CHL. Okay. Never heard of it. Seems to fit pretty good so far. So that piece goes there. This piece goes here. And I think there's some reference holes to line it up. So that's what your inner wheel tub looks like once it's up in there. I have never put these in a car, so this is going to be interesting. Because they have to be right for that wheel arch to fit right. And so I think the weld on this seam back here, according to what I'm seeing, that seam there. And then we got this bracket up here that holds that top lip, which this one is, we're going to have to do a little surgery on that one. So, all right, let me do a little trial fitting on this thing. We may tech screw this thing together and then see if it fits right with the quarter panel on it. Then we'll go back and weld it. So let's do a little trial here, see what we got. All right, so here's the first test fit. Now, this back half seemed to line up pretty good with what I can tell of where it was before without seeing it on there. It's kind of difficult to do that. But then there's a hole here, a hole here, a hole here, and my assumption was you just line all three of those holes up and that's how it goes, but it does not fit that way. I don't know what these holes for, but they don't seem to be reference holes. So I just slid this down to where it's lined up with the bottom of the rocker. It seems to line up with the back here where that cutaway is. And then if you feel on the inside, this seam seems to line up pretty good all the way around. So we're gonna go with that. Let me find my gloves and we're gonna try this quarter panel on here and just see, does the wheel opening land there like it's supposed to? I guess we'll find out. Went ahead and went with some more rust inhibitor all in here. You can kind of see that starting to turn purple already. I've got this on there with tech screws right now. Hold it in place. Slid up. We got that body line good. We got this body line good. Good in the back. Oh, dropped down a little bit there. And does this fit the wheel well? All right. It does here. It's here. Here's good. Back here needs a little massage in there. I almost like it, the whole back of this needs to maybe go up a little bit. I may actually have to do some work on this quarter panel first before we even do that. Let's see. What happens if I put it on there first? That's definitely not it. we're gonna have to do a little trimming on this thing and get this bottom piece to fit. And I'm not sure how I'm gonna do that. Let me show you. All right. So this bottom lip needs to lay over more flat, because it tucks in here, and you can see where all these spot welds were. But how in the heck are you supposed to spot weld that thing once you fold it up in there? I don't think that's going to happen. I think what's going to happen is we're going to have to weld it out here, and then if we want that seam there, just take a cutoff wheel and just indent it and make a little seam there. I don't know that we absolutely have to have that seam there. But anyway, I need to get this fitting right. I got a little piece up there that's not quite tucking into here. Let me trim that, get all that to where we can get the quarter a little closer on here, and then we'll see where we are. But it's kind of looking like we're a little low here. All right, back in a bit. Okay, so we've just been trim, test fit, trim, test fit, trim, test fit, repeat, 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 and we are getting there. So I've got the wheel lip is fitting good inside of there. I did some trimming up along here. This needs to come down just a smidge, because if you look, let's see what that body line is now. Yeah, we're up just a little bit here, but what we're up is, see, we're overlapping here. So if we can get this down to where this is flush and this isn't overlapped, I think that's going to correct that. And I need to go back just a hair, so like this much of the old quarter panel is still in there. So I need to cut that out. So we're going to have to mark that along there and trim that out so this piece fits back in there good, flush with the little tiny piece of the, actually we'll probably just take that whole little tiny piece of the old quarter panel off. Now you can cut here if you want, cut through both layers and put them up flush, but then you got to weld this big long seam that is right out in the open where you're going to see it. So I would much rather do it where it's hidden, where you're not going to see it. So this being said, I think we're happy with where the inner wheel wells are. So I think we're going to go ahead and pull this off and put some marks on those and punch some weld through holes and get those in place where they are. And we'll do a test fit again, make sure we got them right after the first couple of welds. And then we can come back and continue trimming and adjusting on this thing and getting it where it needs to go. Not taking as long as I thought. I mean, it's like I said, it's nice working with a car that is not all ate up with rust to start with. So let me get back on it here and we'll see what we got. Okay, so we've got both wheel wells welded in there, and I went around with a one of these hole punchy deals and punched a bunch of holes in the flange where the jaws were deep enough to get, and then other places I just marked and drilled a bunch of holes, and you can see we spot welded a bunch of holes up in there, so it is not going anywhere. And then Joe gave me a box of spray paint. He's like, use it wherever. So okay, we just spray painted the inside of the quarter, so we got some kind of protection in there. And then up here, trim back this edge up to here. There's still a little bit we're gonna have to trim up there, and went around the quarter panel. I think I've got everything trimmed up now where it needs to be. You can see we punched a bunch of holes here. We punched a bunch of holes down there, and those and around the wheel lip. Those are going to be our spot welds, so we'll go along and clean the paint off of that. Let that dry a half hour or so before I start welding on it, so it doesn't burst into flame. But coming along pretty good. You know, I didn't think I'd get this all this done in one day, but no, man, we're smoking on it. It's working good. All right, we'll check back in just a bit. Okay, there we go. First quarter panel is on. Everything fit really good. Door gap is good. Body line is good. And I just went around and kind of tacked everything, so I'll have to do the finish welding on it. But the wheel lip fit really nice. All the inner wheel tub fits snug against the back of that wheel lip, and this edge back here fit really good. I mean, it came out good, and the tail light lined up right where it was supposed to. So pretty happy with that. So got a lot of welding to do. We got to go along and weld that pretty much all the way along there, and then grind that down. But I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and start on this side. I probably won't show as much on this side because we're basically doing the same thing, but that's where we're at for today. So I'm off again tomorrow. We'll pick this up again tomorrow. Morning, everybody. Welcome to day 2 of Project El Camino. So yesterday we got inner wheel wells and quarter panel done on this. Not done, on. Lots of finish welding left to do, but she's in place and she's solid. I just need to go back and weld everything up and grind it off. So today we are going to work on side 2. And my goal is by the end of the week, have both quarters on and hopefully everything welded up and ground down. Now looking at this side, I mean, it's in good shape. You know, on the other side, this lower inner quarter, or whatever you want to call it, you know, we had some rust on that, so we fixed it over there. Over here, it's good. I mean, a little bit of surface rust. The lip got a little bit bent up when they took the inner wheel well off. It kind of looks like, you know, maybe they used an air hammer on it. So I think first thing we're going to do is just fire up the little die grinder, go along here, kind of clean all these lips up, clean these old welds off, blow this out with an air gun, and then get some some rust inhibitor on some of the spots, get that dried. So the nice thing on the second side is I pretty well know what I have to trim and cut to make that quarter panel fit after doing the panel yesterday. So I could go ahead and start looking into some of that. So up here you can kind of see when they cut this old quarter off, they just cut behind this lip and left that much of it. So we ended up taking that off of the other side, and because it kind of lays over the top of this inner panel here. Now, like I said, you can lay that over the top and cut through both layers and do a butt weld on that, but you know, the problem is then you've got this big long seam that's right out in the open that everybody's going to see, that you're really going to have to dress and do some work on that to get it nice and smooth. So it's easier just to go in here and cut away the inner lip, do your welds in here, grind it in here, less hassle, and then, whoa, who's that power blow? Less hassle, and then, you know, not as visual. The nice smooth lip, and the corner will be out here where you see it. So, all right, let me, we're not going to probably show as much detail on this side because you just saw it all, but let me get going on this thing, and then as we move along, we'll check back in and see how it's going. Okay, so here's where we are. We went through and I cleaned this lip up really good, got all the little bits of metal from the old spot welds off of it, straightened it out where it was crooked, did the same with that bottom lip down there, got it cleaned up, got it straightened out. Took a bunch of this rust reformer, iron armor. Never used this product before, but Joe gave me several cans of it with the car to use, so we just soaked it in everywhere. All down in these seams, all back up in here. Everywhere we could reach, we sprayed it. All down in these seams. I mean, really, there's hardly any rust in this, in these inner panels, but we're gonna put it in there. This panel is actually galvanized, so don't worry too much about it. There's really no rust on that one, so we don't have to fix this like we did the other side. So I put the quarter panel up there. You can see that red mark. That's, I'm pretty sure where I'm gonna have to do my cuts. But the first thing I wanna do is we can see where we got this piece of the old panel up here where it's overlapped. And where it kind of goes around these holes. So we cut that off the other side. We're going to do that over here. So I'm going to cut this, and I want to get all of this off here and get that cleaned up. So when we lay the new panel over it, we're not adding that thickness of that metal. We just want it to lay on the inner panel. So let's get this part done, and then I'm gonna do a little bit of trimming up here to where that panel, the same deal, wouldn't slide under here. And so we'll get that off there. We'll get this in here, and then we'll kind of trace this edge and figure out what we got to cut in there. And yeah, so we'll get that done. And then once we do that, then this stuff should be dry, and then we'll get with the we'll get the inner wheel wells going in there and test fit those. So that's where we're going. All right, so I thought I'd stop a minute and show how we do this. So I want to get the outer, the old piece of the quarter panel off of there. And you can see it was 2 layers. So what I did was I cut it here, left this other piece underneath there. And then I just went along here with my cutoff wheel and just made a few marks, cut through this, just the top layer. And what I want to do is peel these off without damaging what's underneath. So I took a really small chisel, sharpened it up, and what we want to do, that one popped off easy. Yeah, just do that and get these off here. And you can see, look at the rust that's underneath. So we want to get that while we're there. Some of these we're going to have some spot welds on them like this one does. And we can kind of see by popping that up that we probably got a spot weld here and a spot weld there. So maybe we want to cut that guy in the middle. Yeah, maybe not. That might come up there. Let's just get it up a little bit like that, and we can grab it with a pair of vice grips. And we'll bend it up. I don't want to bend too much because I don't want to bend the lip. the other side up. A little bit of give to it. So we can do, let's go ahead and cut that into 2 pieces. Just cutting through the top layer. Just kind of twist on it. And you can, by doing that, you can see where that spot weld is. Just move it back and forth. All right, there's my spot weld. So I need to do that to all the rest of this lip. Get all these pieces off here. Be gentle, don't damage it. And then we'll take we'll put a fresh flapper wheel on the grinder, and we'll clean this up real nice, and we'll treat that a little bit before we put the other panel over it. So that's how you do that. Let me get the rest of this off there, clean it up, and we'll come back and take another look. Okay, so we got that all ground down. That is nice and smooth, looking good. A little bit of rust stain there that's got some pits in it. So we'll take a little shot of the rust reformer and just get those little areas just because they're there and we can. So, all right, I'm happy with that. I did a little bit of trimming on the quarter panel. Just from what we did last time, and I'm gonna do a trial fit on that, kind of see how it does, maybe make a few little check my marks that I already made, and then we're gonna go ahead and launch into wheel wells. So let me do that. Let's get the inner wheel well tech screwed in there like we did last time with the outer wheel well. Then we'll do another quarter panel fit and just see how that looks, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so the wheel well on that side was a little bit of a battle to get to line up right. Man, this one just boom, fell right into place. I don't know if there's a little difference in the stamping or what the deal was, but it's good. I like it. So let me grab the quarter. I still need to do some trimming on it, but let's try a test fit on this thing and just see what it looks like as far as where the wheel lip lands. All right. So I still haven't cut this top rail yet. So I may just, if it comes in a little bit high on the wheel lip, and that should be what I want. There. Oh yeah. That's good. We're right on exactly on the spot welds were for the gas door. We're good up here. Well, you just couldn't ask for no better than that. All right. So let me I'll tell you what. Let me poke all those holes. I need to poke all my spot welding holes. Then we will put this back in there with the tech screws right where I got it right now. Weld her up and pull the screws out, and she should be in the right place. Once we do that, I need to whack this top rail off to where my mark is. Got this little piece of inner structure off of here. I got a little trim on the corner to do, and then this one should be ready to go in place. But yeah, it's right on. Okay, back in a bit. Okay, wheel well number 2 is in. She is rock solid. So I did a couple of test fits on the quarter panel before I did the final welding in place, and everything looks like it is exactly where it is supposed to be. So like I said, this one kind of fell in place even a little easier than the other one. All right, so I'm gonna grab some lunch, and we're gonna come back out, and then we're going to trim on the front of this lip here, kind of get this where we want it to go. We're going to trim on that bed rail there, kind of get it where it wants to go, and start getting this quarter panel in place. So back in a bit. All right, so we went ahead and painted the inside of the quarter panel here, and that's all good and dry, so we can proceed. And I've been doing a little bit of trimming here, and so I put the panel up here and marked this line. And what we're going to do is, you can see this is double layer to right there, and then it goes single layer. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to cut that there, and then we're going to cut where I got the pencil mark there, and then but this bottom layer we're going to take my flat metal sheet metal pliers, and we're just going to kind of bend this edge back a little bit, trying to line it up with that. So we'll have the bottom edge, we'll have a lap seam there, and then from here on up we'll just have the quarter panel well into this. But I think that's how we're going to do that, and we'll probably cut that little well loose right there to so we can get some movement on this. But that looks like that's going to work pretty good. I'll check the door gap on it. It looks like that's going to be good. So let's go ahead, and then up here you can kind of see that's how much of a bigger lap we got. I think we'll cut that there and just peel this whole piece off and lay that over that. So all right, let's get going on that, and we're getting closer and closer to the final fit before we tack things on and start making it permanent. And then up here I kind of did the same thing I did in the back. We had to trim off this this piece was overlapped here, so we scored that, cleaned that up, and this will be one of our overlap spots. And then our other lap will be back here. So and we're getting there. Okay, so we got this quarter panel tacked on here, and this one was a little bit more of a struggle. It's just, you know, you take a chance with these things. Sometimes they're made really good, and sometimes they're just a little bit off, and this one was just a little bit off in some places. So like if I got the door gap where I wanted, it wasn't good back here. If I got the body lines where I wanted, you know what I'm saying, it's almost like it was an eighth of an inch or whatever in the stamping die, just not quite right. It's like this part of the wheel well here sandwiched together really nice with the back and the inner wheel well until about right here, and then you had a gap. So I don't know if it was, did they make this wheel well a little short? The inner wheel well was it made a little bit long? Hard to say, but that's one of the things you deal with when you're dealing with aftermarket panels. So what I settled on was getting everything pretty much straight where it is. We fixed this. Was able to kind of bend that inner wheel well out a little bit, bend the other one in a little bit, and get them to line up. That all lined up good under there. I got the body lines good, adjusting on the door, but I got my bottom gap good, and that line is good, but as you go up, the gap gets bigger. So what we may end up having to do is add a little metal on up in here to fix that body gap, which is not a big deal. Had to do that before on other ones, but we really won't know until we get the front clip on, get it nailed down to where it needs to be, get the what we'll probably do is get the front clip on, get the fenders adjusted to where the front door gap is right, because we know those fenders and that front clip went with this doors. And then whatever we need to fix, we'll fix in this gap. But other than that, it went really well. Actually, the inner wheel wells fit really nice. The gas door fit really nice. All the spot welds fell exactly where they were on the factory panel. So that was cool. All of this lined up really nice. You can see that hole, lined up really good. So all of this lined up really good. Just that little bit up there. So, all right. So the rest of this week, I am going to finish welding this. I need to finish weld this seam all the way along back here. Down in here, I need to finish down there and do the same on the other side. So I want to get all of those seams finished and sand and ground down, and then down in here, we're going to have to. I think we're going to go ahead and weld that seam up, and then just use the cutoff wheel to mimic that body line in there. So we'll have to fill that on both sides. So we'll take a peek at that when I get done with that later in the week. And then that'll be it for this video. And then on the next video, we're going to start here in the back. And what we're going to do is you can see we got some bed repair there. We've got a little bit of bed repair there. Back, I don't know if you can see it up in here. We got some pinholes there that we need to fix. Now, I really don't want to cut this panel out because this is, it's formed for, there's a angle iron goes back up under here, and then that catches the lip on the smuggler's box lid, they call it. So we may just end up cutting a strip out of that and welding another strip in there, and then welding that angle iron on. But we'll figure all that out when we get to the next video on that. So the smuggler's box bed is actually really good. We're gonna pick up some seam sealer and do around the wheel wells where we welded in there, and then I think we're gonna coat this with some in here with some truck bed liner, just to make sure that if any moisture gets down in there or whatever, that it doesn't get trapped and we have any issues later. So all right, well, I'm going to work on this for a couple of days, and then we'll come back and look at the finished product, and then that will be it for this one. So we'll catch you in a bit. All right, so been out here welding tonight. We got this seam here, and we went all the way down the bed. And that is a that is a long welding process, because you gotta do it tiny bits at a time so you don't get it too hot. But it does help that it's on a bend. And you're welding to something that's really structurally solid, so it's not like welding out in the middle of a big panel. You don't have to worry about that too much. So we'll hit the other side tomorrow night and see what that side looks like. And I got a little bit to do on these back corners yet, and see if we can finish all that up tomorrow night, and then we'll take another look. Okay, so we got I got this side all welded down, and I actually ground this side down, and it's feeling pretty good. I think a little dab of filler will make that look nice once we get that together. In fact, I got some fiberglass filler here. I may go ahead and go over these seams on both sides. Still need to grind down the other side, but as you can see, it came out pretty good. So and I need to weld that seam down there, and I think we're gonna have to do some adjustment on this door jamb. That one looks good. I'm gonna play around with the door a little bit more on this one, but I think we may be doing a little bit of a slice down at the bottom, maybe just taking a little bit out from here to about there and tapping that back to match the top. It's kind of got a pitch to it, no matter what I did with the door or what I did with if I did anything different with the panel, it made the panel worse. and I messed with the door, and I got the top gap good, but that's just how it is with these aftermarket panels. Sometimes you got to do that stuff. So we'll get to that later. Next video, we are going to start working on the bed. So we got a little patch over here. We got a little tiny patch over there, and then we are going to do some wire brushing, seam sealing, spot welding on the inner fenders on the smuggler's box down here, and we need to do a little patching down there. So all that will be next time. All right, so let's this first video of the series. I hope you all like it. Joe, if you're watching, I hope you're digging what's going on with your truck. And let's get a word from the Lord, and we'll call it. All right, so it is so nice out this week being able to work with the door open and not having the heat on. It's 70 degrees is awesome. So I better enjoy it, because here in Missouri it'll be 90 before long, and we'll be breaking the big fan out. So anyway, last video we talked about the different types of Christian churches and how we should look more for our commonalities than we should of pointing out the differences and debating against each other. I mean, we should be working together like the early church did to recruit more souls for Jesus, to bring more people to be saved, whether you're Catholic, Methodist, Presbyterian, Baptist, Lutheran, and on and on and on. There's a bunch of us out there. And yeah, we got some differences, but we are all brothers and sisters in Christ. And I really appreciate a lot of the good comments I got on that. So this time we want to talk about, why do we go to church? I went through years of not going to church, and I kind of used the old line, well, I can worship the Lord out at the fishing hole, or I can worship the Lord on the golf course, or with me it was probably, I can worship the Lord while I'm working in my shop. I don't need to be there at church. They're all just a bunch of hypocrites. They're all just a bunch of sinners, and every time I go to church I end up getting hurt by somebody, so why should I go to church? So there's a few reasons. Main reason is the Lord tells us to go to church. He commands it. If we look back into the time of Christ, we see that he gathered those around him. You know, people followed him. He had crowds of thousands. He didn't tell the fishermen, hey, while you're out there on the lake, why don't you pray to my Father so you can get to know him better? You know, no, he brought them all together, put them in a group, sat them down, and preached the word to him. And this is what he calls us to gather together for a couple of reasons. One, this one I don't always agree with the way that it's used, is we go to church so we can be fed. We do. We go to church. It's like plugging that battery into the battery charger every week. You know, I go in there and I hear the word of God, and I listen to my pastor, and I talk to the Lord, and I am focused on him for that time. That's all I'm thinking about. And I get my stuff rejuvenated and recharged so that I am ready to go out and tell other people about him. Now, other people, or some people, I've been in churches before, I'm sure we all have, where people have left that church and went to another church. And sometimes we can get into that, well, I'm not being fed. Now, I'm showing up on Sunday, most Sundays. I'm showing up and I'm sitting there and listening to the preacher and listening to the music. I'm not volunteering for anything. I'm not doing anything really other than showing up. You know, I'll throw a 5 in the basket, you know, every once in a while, or maybe a 20 if it's Easter. I'm not going out. I'm not going out and hanging out with these church people. I'm just kind of showing up for me to get for myself. Well, you know, all week when we're praying, if we're praying, we should be praying. It's like, you know, Lord, help me with this. Lord, help me with that. Lord, heal this person. Lord, heal that person. We ask and we ask and we ask and we ask and we ask, and we're supposed to ask. We also want to be thankful. But to do that all week and then to go into church and it's like, here I am. What are you going to give me this week? So it is part of that. But another part of why we go to church, we're not there just to recharge ourselves. We are there to minister to others. We are there to volunteer. Whether it's helping in the kids' church, or whether it's helping at an evening event. Maybe it's helping with the music, like my wife and I do. All kinds of ministry opportunities. Maybe you're on a ministry team that goes out and visits other places. One of the things we love to do on Thanksgiving is we gather at our church and we make meals for people, and then we put the meals together, and we've got people that drive and take them out. So all this stuff, this is great stuff. And that's how we go to church and we give. And that is so important that we're active in our church, that we're giving in our church, that we are being a part of the congregation. There is not a church you're going to go to if you're one of those folks that says, well, they're all full of hypocrites. Churches are full of people, and people are sinners. All of us, me, you, every one of us are sinners, are fallen, and we're going to make mistakes, and we're going to do dumb things. And sometimes we'll do dumb things in church. We won't realize we did a dumb thing, and we won't ask for forgiveness. And maybe we hurt somebody. Maybe somebody hurts us, and they didn't ask for forgiveness. Well, gosh darn it. Well, they should have. They hurt my feelings. Maybe they don't know it. But they're people, and they're fallen people, and they're sinful people, just like all of us. So that excuse of, well, I'm not going there because of those people are all like, hey, you and I are one of those people. We argue about stupid things, and we say things that we regret, and we say things that hurt people. That's just part of our humanity. Part of that we go is to, when we minister to other people, that we learn to identify when we do those things wrong, and when we have to ask for forgiveness. And you know what? We learn that when my brother or sister in Christ does something that offends me and does something wrong, that I can forgive them without them asking for forgiveness. Just like Jesus did on the cross, when those soldiers had beat him and whipped him and cut him with a sword and nailed him to the cross, and he's hanging up there and he says, Father, forgive them because they know not what they do. They didn't ask him for forgiveness, but he asked for his heavenly Father to forgive them for what they had done. Great stuff. Here's a couple of Bible verses about why we go to church. Hebrews 10:25, not neglecting to meet together, as is the habit of some, that's not going to be us, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day drawing near. And brothers and sisters, the day is drawing near. Every minute that passes, we are closer to that day drawing near. Matthew 18:20, for where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there I am among them. You got one of them little bitty churches, a little country church with 10 people in it, and you're like, well, I go to this thing. There's hardly anybody there. Jesus went and ministered to the woman at the well when it was just the two of them. Romans 10:17, so faith comes through hearing, and hearing through the word of Christ. We need to be there to hear our pastor's interpretation, and not interpretation, our pastor's speaking about the Bible, our Sunday school teachers speaking about the Bible, the people in our Bible study class reading scripture and discussing it amongst ourselves. Just me sitting there with my Bible, never ever getting any other input, I'm not going to get it right. One more, Hebrews 10:26. For if we go on sinning deliberately after receiving the knowledge of the truth, there no longer remains a sacrifice for sin. That's a tough verse. Probably not a great one of why we go to church, but that was on this list. Here you go, Acts 20:28. Pay careful attention to yourself and to all the flock in which the Holy Spirit has made you overseers, to care for the church of God, which he attained with his own blood. He sacrificed everything for the church so that we can all meet together and fellowship together and strengthen each other and then take it out. And that's what we need to do. So hope you like that message. Let's have a quick word of prayer and we'll be done. Father, I just thank you for today. Thank you for this new video series and the opportunity to work on my buddy's Joe's truck here, and I'm just ask you to help me to be extra careful and mindful of what I'm doing, since I am working on something that means a lot to somebody else. And I just pray for everybody out there who is not attending a church, who says they know you, who says they pray, and who says they spend time with you. Just put it on their hearts that they need to be in a community of believers, and just find the right community of believers for them. Draw them into whatever church you know they belong in. And we ask this in the precious name of your son, Jesus. All right, hit like, hit subscribe. Episode 1 is out of the way. Next time we'll be hitting the bed and checking that out. So catch you in a bit.